Hello, and welcome to Truth is Live Talk. Here, we promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I'm your host, LaDawn Elliott, and my mission is to reveal truth so that others are inspired and empowered to share and live in their truth. Tonight on Truth is Live Talk, we have the phenomenal Kizzle Forson here to share his journey of healing and discuss the impact of Black men not feeling heard or seen and not having a safe space to express their feelings, fears, or thoughts. But before we jump in, I want to give you just a little bit of background on Kizzle, and then we're going to move right on into the interview. So Kizzle Forson is a mental health advocate who has dedicated his life to helping people with destigmatizing and demystifying mental health in the Black community. He created the platform expressyourselfblackman.com so that Black men could have a space to express themselves healthily with the hopes of creating a community of healing. While the community is built for Black men, it is open to anyone who is respectful of Black men. Kizzle has 10,000 plus podcasts where he speaks on past traumas and lessons he's learned from therapy. He also has a social media community of 55,000 plus, which he shares daily posts that provoke thought and healing. Well, hello there, Kizzle. How are you this evening?
I'm great, LaDawn. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here. It's such a privilege to have you here with us tonight. I've been excited all day because I'm just blown away by it. So I know the information that you share tonight will prove to be invaluable, not only to your community, but especially to mine.
I'm appreciative. I'm happy to be here for real.
Okay, all right. I want to do something that I do at the beginning of each show, and that is to thank the truth seekers and the Express Yourself Black Man community that is joining us here this evening. Please feel free to like and share the interview, as well as share your thoughts in the comments. Each episode of Truth is Live Talk is permanently posted on my LaDawn Elliott Facebook page. As such, you can always rewatch them, direct others to the page to watch them, or just simply pay it forward by sharing the video with those that you love. So be sure to do that. So with that being said, all the preliminaries out of the way, I just want to get right down to it, okay? Okay. So as I said, I'm completely blown away by your mission of creating community of healing for Black men. I feel like each post that I get the opportunity to read, you are literally giving Black men permission to heal and free themselves. And I shared with you when I asked about doing the interview that I have a 26-year-old son and a 19-year-old son, as well as a 28-year-old nephew. And I know that what you share, because I shared with them, that your truth and your mission is something that speaks directly to them every day. And the work that I do, I'm an awareness strategist, so I'm aware, based on the conversations I have with men of all ages, well, 18 and above, that they express all the time that they feel trapped as husbands, as fathers, as employees, just as members of society, because they have no safe place, not even within themselves sometimes, to breathe and just simply be. So with that being said, I want to ask you a question, your first question. So you had this mission to do this, and I think it's a very daunting task because, like you said, there's a myth about mental health in the world, but particularly the Black community. What was your desire? What was the impetus behind creating this community? Was it birthed out of a personal trauma?
Yeah, so it was birthed out of personal trauma because that's what ended up getting me into therapy, which is what led to Express Yourself Black Man, but also out of passion and me just wanting to create things that helped. And so what I always tell people is that when I first started Express Yourself Black Man, what I was really trying to do was create a space on social media where I felt comfortable. And as long as I felt comfortable, I was cool with that. So I just made affirmations and things that I would like to see. And that's what led to it growing to now over 60,000 people on Instagram, over 3,000 people on TikTok, 1,000 people on YouTube, that kind of thing, right? So I call it leading with vulnerability.
Yes.
which is basically talking about the things that we don't normally talk about as Black men, like depression, anxiety, getting cheated on, all of these different traumas that we have, but we don't speak on because we think of it as taboo. So I try to do that on the page and try to offer up my solutions, also solution-based thinking, not just me offering opinions all the time, right? Because opinions help and they help people to feel um, part of something, but they don't help people to actually heal, right? And so that's the real reason and foundation that I've built Express Yourself Black Men off of, is actually having solutions that help Black men to heal. So I lead with vulnerability by explaining some of the things that I've experienced that are similar to other Black men, but I also give solutions. And I think that's what really sets us apart. And that's one of the reasons as to why I created Express Yourself Black Man, so that we could have solutions in a place that we could actually go. So it did, to answer your question, it did come from my personal experience with trauma. But also it was really just a passion of mine, is to create things that I wish existed. And this was something that I wish existed at the time. And I'm glad that it's grown to where it's at now.
I love that. I think you're absolutely correct. It's courageous to lead with vulnerability, and you have to have love to do that. You have to have confidence to do that. And you remind me of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Ronnie and Lamar Tyler. They are the founders of blackandmarriedwithkids.com.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm
Oh
not familiar. Yeah, you
yeah,
can, man, yeah.
they're huge. And the reason I brought them up, they were a young Black couple looking for a space online to get inspiration, to find out what can we do to better our marriage. It wasn't there, so they built it. And so you're doing the same thing. And I think having the nerve, the audacity to do this with such a sensitive topic is brave beyond belief. So I can appreciate that. Sorry that you had a personal trauma, but I'm glad it was something that was not, that you had to go through in vain, that it was meant for a purpose.
Yeah, I'm always thankful for it. I know people hear about me talking about getting cheated on. The first thing people think about is like, dang, man, that sucks. But for me, I'm always like, I'm eternally grateful for that. Like I
Okay.
have a completely different perspective on getting cheated on. Without me getting cheated on, I would have never hopped into therapy. Without therapy, I would have never done the inner work to actually heal. Without doing the inner work to actually heal, I wouldn't have impacted all these individuals that are healing through Express Yourself Black Man. So I'm eternally grateful. I can only look at that time and be happy. And happy that it happened, happy that I got cheated on, which is, I know, a crazy thing for people to say. But I am happy because look at the result, right? Like
Yeah.
my life has dramatically improved as a result of dealing with that trauma, right? And there's something called post-traumatic growth that
Yes.
we don't normally talk about. We don't talk about it enough, right? But when people experience trauma, there's two different routes that you can take, right? Technically three, but we will make it black and white just for the sake of this conversation. There's two different routes, right? You can take one route where you use that trauma as a way to help you to grow. And I'm not talking about taking negative learned behaviors and then using those negative learned behaviors to have you make generalizations that cause you to go down a certain route that make you grow. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual inner growth that you do and the inner healing that you do that takes you to a certain level in your life that allows you to vibrate at a higher level and meet the people that you want to meet and do the things that you actually want to do and be as successful as you want to be, right? That's post-traumatic growth. That's one route that you can take. The other route that a lot of times we get stuck in is just being stagnant and stuck in the mindset that we can't believe that this has happened to us, right? And we cannot believe that this person would do this thing to us. And we cannot believe that we experienced this and all these different things that leads us into a downward spiral of like anxiety, depression, negative learned behaviors that then impacts the rest of our life, right? So there's two different routes that we can take, and it's up to us to determine which one we take. I'm not saying that we don't have to go through grief and being depressed and stuff, because with all trauma, normally most trauma, you go through the grieving process, but out of that comes a kind of rebirth that you get to decide who you want to be and what you want to do as a result of what you've experienced. And that's when you get to pick those two different paths that you want to go down. So you can do that inner work and that healing so that you can go down the one path where it really allows you to really truly grow and expand as an individual, or you can shrink and decide to put up walls and all these different things that lead to you ending up in the same cycles or depressed or not where you actually would like to be. So I always think about that experience, that me getting cheated on, as an experience that I really leaned into post-traumatic growth instead of allowing it to destroy me and relationships that I'll create moving forward.
Yeah. I believe you find truth in trauma, and it allows you to create a testimony. And you're right. My show is about allowing people to speak their truth, but the basis of every topic is mindset. We all have the power and the ability to choose, and you just clearly define two different paths, two distinct paths that people can choose, and you can choose the one that you've chosen, not only to heal yourself, but to help others to heal as well. So
Right.
you did say that it did come out of a personal trauma as well as its passion. Do you mind sharing how that trauma impacted you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? And the reason I'm asking is because I know a lot of people say that they have trauma, but I think people sometimes need to hear how it manifested in you, because they might be able to identify, relate to that, and recognize, oh, I'm experiencing some trauma too, and they not know that they are.
Yeah, so that's what we do on the page all the time. So of course I don't mind sharing. That's called leading with vulnerability. That's what I call leading with vulnerability, right? You being vulnerable enough to share your experience so that other people feel more comfortable being in their vulnerability, right? So for me, if we're talking specifically after getting cheated on, first stage was disbelief, and disbelief lasted for maybe 10 seconds for me personally. Disbelief lasted for 10 seconds because I quickly had to come to the realization. So it initially it lasted for 10 seconds, and then I kind of hopped in between disbelief and anger. So the first 10 seconds was disbelief, and then after that was rage, like anger, like I've never experienced before, right? Like extremely angry. Um, Hung up the phone after hearing about it, threw my phone, tossed my phone in my apartment. Had a hole, I had a hole in my wall as a result of that,
Oh,
that
wow.
I had to caulk up before I moved out. And then the days after were a lot of anger and rage and disbelief, and me hopping between both of those. I can't believe she would cheat on me. Wow, she really cheated on me. Dang, I never expected that she would cheat on me. Damn, she's crazy. I cannot believe she would do this. If I was around her, I'd beat her up.
Yeah.
This is my thought process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That I would beat her up. And this is anybody that knows me. I'm not that kind of guy, right? Like I don't believe in that. I don't believe putting your hands on anybody, especially not putting your hands on women. But at that time, that's what I was dealing with. It's just this infuriating anger from being betrayed by someone that you felt like loved you and had your best interests at heart, right? I just felt like I was played and I was used, led to a lot of anger mixed in with disbelief. And so those are really the first two stages, disbelief, anger for me personally. And I know everybody has their own like um, different kind of stages. So some people would say you go from disbelief to acceptance to anger. That's not really how it went for me. It went from disbelief to anger, then kind of getting to a point where I came to acceptance. So I'm not really sure how the stages are normally described. I could be wrong, but I believe people say disbelief, acceptance, then anger. But I could be wrong. It could be disbelief, anger, then acceptance. But for me, it was disbelief, anger, then finally getting to the point where I actually accepted the fact that it happened, but was still kind of upset about the fact that it happened and that it happened to me because I just never expected that
Yeah.
to happen. Before then, I really thought that women didn't cheat. That was my thought process. Really,
Okay.
and everybody that anytime I tell people that, they always laugh, right? Yeah, but that's really the thought process that I had. I was in a relationship and before that relationship, and neither of us cheated. And I was in that relationship for like 5 years, and I was in that relationship during my developmental years from like 14 to 19. So all the time where people were experiencing all these relationships that were quote unquote toxic, where they're getting cheated on, they're hearing about people cheating, all these different things. I wasn't experiencing that. I didn't have that kind of relationship. But when
Okay.
I did a relationship, it just didn't end up working out. So I always assumed that women were like the woman that I was with at that time. They just commit and it's
So
all good,
naive.
right? Just very, yeah, had a very naive mindset about relationships and how things work. So you can imagine when I got cheated on, how it affected me because it was a huge reality check for me. So like I said, disbelief, anger, acceptance. Once I got to the acceptance phase, I started realizing that my thought process around like woman was getting skewed by some of the things that I was seeing online, but about like some men that kind of like I felt like I related to, and they were kind of speaking to my pain a little bit.
Okay.
And I felt comfort in that, but I also didn't feel comfortable acting on what they were saying to do, which
Okay.
is, you gotta treat women like this. You just gotta focus on you. Don't worry about these women. They'll come to you. When they come to you, you just gotta do this. You gotta act this way and blah, blah. it just didn't, and it never really sat right with me. And I realized I knew I had a problem based on the relationship that I had where I got cheated on, and then also the relationship before then where it didn't end up working out. And so that's when I hopped into therapy. So for me, it really was disbelief, anger, acceptance, realizing that I had an issue, hopping into therapy, and then learning how to really deal with and process those emotions in a way that was healthier than what I was actually doing to cope at the time.
So it sounds like your process was similar to most people. It ebbs and flows, and the
Hmm.
order in which it happens is different for everyone.
Hmm.
And I understand the naivety, especially like if this was your second relationship and you didn't have that issue in the first relationship.
Yeah.
So I get that. So experiencing all that as you were going through it, what aligned in you mentally and emotionally to give you the confidence to commit to the process of healing? Because you have to choose. You had to choose to go to therapy.
Yeah.
What gave you the confidence to do that? What aligned?
I wasn't getting better. That's it. I wasn't feeling better. I was just because after the acceptance also comes a period of like depression a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Not like heavy onset depression where you're like debilitated and you can't really get out of bed and all these different kind of things. But depression in the sense that you're kind of replaying scenarios, you're trying to see where you went wrong. Why could she have cheated? Was it me? Were we not having sex enough? All these, you kind of start questioning yourself. So that kind of depression. So for me, sitting in that alone and then also consuming all of this content that was making me feel like I was technically the problem and I was technically to blame and that I needed to do something different. And I was responsible for getting cheated on because I trusted a woman in the first place.
Oh wow.
Wasn't really, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't really sitting right with me. That just never sat right with me. That idea that because you didn't act a certain way or you didn't carry yourself a certain way or do something a certain way, that you therefore were destined to get cheated on because this is how all women are anyway. And I was just, that never sat right with me. I knew I wasn't getting better. I was actually kind of, more frustrated. I was flowing between depression, anger, disbelief, all these different things. So I was going through all the different stages. And I realized like, yo, I need to talk to somebody. I have to. I can't just keep this in, and talking to my bros isn't enough. Talking to my bros just isn't enough. It's not doing what it needs to do for me. The people my age have a saying, they say it's not giving what it's supposed to give. I don't know.
Not giving what it's supposed to give.
Yeah, it's not giving what it's supposed to give. It wasn't giving what it was supposed to give at that time. And I knew I needed to talk to someone. And I really specifically chose a Black woman.
Okay.
I chose a Black woman because I wanted a woman's perspective. I felt like I had problems with women, so who better to talk to than a woman? Right? Like
You were so thoughtful in that, and you say that so easily in that I knew I wasn't getting better. It's so many people out there that know that they're not getting better, but they still don't make the choice. And then on
right.
top of that, to say, "Well, here is where I feel like I have an issue. So let me go to the source."
Right.
That took a lot of awareness. So in that, in realizing you were not getting better, and realizing that there was a specific place that you wanted to glean information from, at, at, at what point did you realize, okay, it's me, I got to do the work? Like, as you said, my partners are not doing it,
Right.
all the other things are not doing, I am the only one that's going to rescue me.
I've always had a very good relationship with personal accountability, so that was never an issue for me. I never thought of it as these women are the problem.
Okay.
And that's what I was getting from the videos. These women are the problem. This is how you change you, so you learn how to deal with these women moving forward. And I was like, huh? I mean, I guess I know I need to do something to change, but this is not really I'm not feeling this. I don't really feel this. I don't really vibe with this. So I never had a problem with personal accountability, but the personal accountability can't be predicated on someone else's, actions.
Yes.
Like I can't try and hold myself personally accountable to do certain things or for doing certain things, and then also say, yeah, and if you act this way, this is exactly what's going to happen because these women are like this. And that's kind of what I was feeling like I was getting. So for me, like when you say you had a certain level of awareness, yeah. Um, I've always had a certain level of awareness. Therapy has enhanced that dramatically from just having those conversations with my therapist and becoming even more self-aware. But I always had awareness because I do self-reflection all the time. I'm always asking myself questions and I'm honest with myself. I don't lie to myself. And I think a lot of us lie to ourselves.
all the
But
time.
I'm very honest with myself. And I'm radically honest, and that's what helped me to get into therapy is when I knew I had a problem.
So
That's the radical honesty. You were in a 5-year relationship from 14 to 19. You guys broke up. You were super depressed. Then you hopped into another relationship. You ignored red flags for 2 years. You did long distance. You compromised yourself. And you got cheated on. Now
okay.
you hate. Now you think all women are evil. You have a problem. This is not even who you are. You're super angry and you're depressed. What is wrong? Let's go talk to somebody because you're not getting what you need from your bros, and you're not where you want to be mentally. You're not where you want to be in terms of relationships with women. So let's figure out what's wrong. And that's what was really driving me. Let's figure out what's wrong. I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong. You get what I'm saying? Like I knew
Yeah.
something was wrong, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And I needed somebody, and I knew I needed somebody else to pull it out of me. I knew it was something that I couldn't just sit and self-reflect and become aware of because I just didn't have the knowledge. You don't know what you don't know.
There you go. There you
Right.
go.
And that's why I reached out to a therapist because I knew they were professionally trained in the areas to find the things that I may have been overlooking.
And I love that rant that you just gave
Mhm.
on self-reflection and radical truth, because you really said, I've been in this relationship for this amount of time, depressed, jump
Mhm.
right into another relationship,
Mhm.
ignoring the red flags. A lot of people don't allow themselves to have that level of truth in their pain because they're still trying to figure out what the other person did and find a place for blame. So to
Yeah.
be able to see that and then know something is not quite right, but I'm going to reach out and get some help.
Yeah.
What I hear is accountability, personal accountability was critical because that's probably what most people are missing, because
Yeah.
people understand and feel the pain, but are not willing to self-reflect
Mhm.
radically, be
Mhm.
honest with themselves, and take that personal accountability. And what they don't realize, not doing that keeps them in that place, strips them of their power. When you take that step, you take a step towards gaining your power back. So yeah,
Yeah.
that
You
yeah,
do.
woo,
You don't take a step towards getting your power back. You gain your
yeah,
power back.
for sure.
There is
For sure.
there is so much power in personal accountability. I always try to tell guys all the time, like people think personal accountability is like a punishment, but that's the wrong P. That's
Yeah,
the wrong P to use. There's
yeah.
no seriously, bro. Like there's power in personal accountability. It's not a punishment for you to be accountable for the things that have happened to you, right?
Well,
I'm
it
not
feels like
saying
that.
right.
It feels like
I'm
that.
yeah, it does. It definitely does feel like that until you actually get into it and understand and then start making changes and realize how much those changes positively impact your life for years to come.
Yeah.
We're literally talking about the quality of life you're gonna live, right? We're not talking about like, we're not talking about you going and picking up some groceries or something like that, something like making a good meal for like one day or like a week. Like we're talking about the quality of life you're
Mhm.
gonna live. There is no argument,
Say
you
that
know?
again for the
Yeah,
people in the back. The
seriously,
quality
right?
of life that you're
Right.
going to live.
There's
Yeah.
no argument when it comes to taking personal accountability over your life, right? Like, why would you ever not want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to have control over the life you live and have control over knowing that you can rectify certain things to live a better life? Because
Yeah.
everything that we deal with, every trauma that gets thrown our way, there are lessons in there, right? There are lessons, right? There are certain things, don't get me wrong, right? There are certain things that um like that other people do to us that there's not much that we can do about, right? So I don't want to say everything has a lesson and a silver lining, right? I don't want to generalize it in that sense, but most things do. Most things do, and we have to be able to sit with it and understand and reflect and understand and know where we can do better, right? So I could have easily have said, she cheated, she crazy, all these women crazy, all these women evil. And I did that, right? And I did that. But internally, that's not who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So yeah, she cheated, and she was wrong, but what did I do wrong? Right? Like, what did I do wrong? And I'm not saying I didn't have enough sex or I wasn't leading properly in the relationship, and that's the reason why she cheated. She was just unhappy, and she cheated because I wasn't hugging her enough, and blah blah blah. Right? Like, that's not self-reflection.
Right.
That's beating
Right.
yourself up.
Right.
Right? That's not holding yourself accountable.
No.
Holding yourself accountable is, yo, when we first got into a relationship, she told me she didn't want to have kids. She told me she didn't want to get married. Why did I stay?
If that's not what I want, why red
Why
flag.
did I exactly?
Red flag.
Why
Yeah.
did I stay in that situation? Right? Because now you can understand, okay, you made some mistakes early on, right? So why did you stay so long? You probably shouldn't even have been in this relationship. Why were you in this relationship so long? And then that self-reflection led to me realizing, damn, maybe I have a problem. And it has nothing to do with the cheating, to be honest.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the cheating. We talked about the cheating in therapy for maybe like a couple sessions. That's not really even what we talked about.
Yeah.
Talked
Yeah.
about the cheating for a few sessions. We don't even talk about the cheating anymore. The cheating is long gone, right?
Yeah.
We talk about my need, or my need at that time, for physical love from women, and how that impacted my decision making and led to me staying in a relationship for so long with someone that wasn't really for me and ended up cheating on me. And how that also impacted my relationship from when I was 14 to 19, and how that came from possibly my relationship with my parents in childhood. So these are how things tie together. That's what I was actually missing. I knew I had a problem. I didn't know where it came from. I didn't know how it manifested. And if I didn't go and do that, then I would have ended up in another relationship repeating the same exact cycle.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of therapy. You get to do that excavation if you have a good therapist.
Yep.
And most people that show up for therapy, the reason that drives them there is usually not the issue. It's why you have that reason or why that symptom arose. So yeah, you've done a lot of work, and it shows in what you share with your community. And I'm hoping that men of all ages, but particularly young men, because you talk about 14 and 19 and then a relationship after that. And I don't think most people give credence or credit or really understand that people that are young are having these strong emotions and going through all these things as well. So everyone handles things differently. And you don't discredit that a lot of young people are suffering in silence because people are just saying, oh, you really were
they young.
yeah, y'all they young.
Man.
All that
Yeah, let me speak on that real quick.
That's the thing.
Let me speak on that real quick, because you've definitely brought up something that we need to definitely talk about in our culture, in our community. Stop trying to put off young people. I don't care how young that individual is. Doesn't matter how young they are. Listen to them and take heed to what they're saying, how they're saying it, and the passion in which they speak about it. I'll give a very real example. I was 18 when I told my parents, I said, yo, I want to marry this girl, right? And they took me seriously. But most people wouldn't even have taken me seriously at 18.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, okay, how are you gonna marry her? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, how are you gonna go through that process? You have to have money. I'm 18, I'm so naive, I didn't even think weddings cost money. You know, I'm thinking like, oh, we just get married, like we good. I don't need to have money or a job or anything like that. I'm just like, yo, I love this girl, I want to get married, right? And I'm saying all this to say that a lot of people think that just because someone is young, that they don't have a plan, and that their feelings and stuff aren't real. And that they're in these relationships, usually the relationship is gonna fail anyway. It don't matter, they'll be fine, just gonna go through it, they'll be good. But for that person, that 18-year-old, that relationship is probably their life.
That's real.
That's real. It. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't
Yes.
know anything outside of being 18. So everything that they're saying to you, everything that they're experiencing is for the first time, and it's very real for them.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to not get into the habit of thinking, oh yeah, they're 18, they're young, the teenagers, they'll get through it. Because most of the times, those teenage relationships are where people experience like depression the most.
Yeah. Because you don't know how to process all of the stuff that you're going through.
Right.
And if you don't have anybody to talk to about it, yeah.
Who you gonna talk to? Nobody's taking you serious.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Like my parents don't take this relationship seriously. I can't go to them and tell them I'm depressed because of this. No,
Yeah.
I can't do that.
And I've been guilty of that, not necessarily not taking it seriously, but saying, this is a phase in your life
Hmm.
and you will grow beyond that, or this won't be the situation forever. But while that may be the truth, it invalidates how you're feeling in the moment.
Yep,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
definitely does,
Yeah.
right? Because then what you're basically saying is, man, this ain't that
Get
important, bro.
over it. Get over
Yeah,
it.
get
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
You're saying
Yeah.
get over it in another
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, nah, absolutely. We gotta take young people a lot more seriously, especially when it comes to relationships, especially men. Most of the men that I talk to, and it's so interesting, most of the men that I talk to, when I ask them what started you on your healing journey, you know what they say?
What?
A breakup.
So
Most
that's
men say a breakup.
okay.
I don't care how old, 40, 50, it don't matter how old. Anytime I ask, yo, how do you start your healing journey? How do you get started with like mental health and all these different things? Yeah, I went through this breakup when I was blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. And I've heard it so many times at this point now, it's not even news to me.
Wow.
Anytime I share my story and I talk about going through my breakup, everybody's like, yeah, man, I know exactly how you
I
feel,
get it.
bro.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. I definitely was there. All men can relate to a difficult breakup with the one that they thought was the one.
The one.
Yeah, all
So,
men can relate to that, and all men react to that in some way, shape, or form. We all do, right? But I think a lot of us as men, especially, take it super, super seriously, and it leads to either that post-traumatic growth or that kind of like, for lack of better words, that PTSD, where you have
yeah.
problems dealing with relationships moving forward, and you have all these negative learned behaviors as a result of that relationship.
Yeah, that ego travels with you. So if you don't do that healing thing, you
Hmm.
take that to the next relationship, and it's always going to be trying to protect you, and
Right.
it's going to be problematic. So I wanted you to share specifically how that breakup manifested so people could identify with it. I want to know, because you
Mhm.
mentioned all the depression doesn't look the same. Everyone is not incapable of getting up and living life. There are a lot of high functioning depressed people, like
Mhm.
hiding in plain sight,
Mhm.
especially Black men.
Mhm.
So I want to know, I want you to share how that depression at that time, or that anxiety, um, you shared how it manifested, but were the people that were closest to you, your friends, your parents, were they aware, or were you literally hiding in plain sight? So I'm asking that because I
Mm.
want to know, if they were not aware, what behaviors should people look out for? And I know it's different for everybody, but what
Yeah.
behaviors should people look out for to say, yeah, yeah, something's probably wrong with Kizzle.
Right.
He's behaving like this when he didn't before.
Yeah. 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 These are great questions. How did it manifest for me? Um, just very reserved. I would call it high functioning, where I was able to go out in public and smile and pretend everything was okay. I was still averaging a 4.0 GPA. I was good.
Okay.
I was good in terms of the public eye, right? But when I was coming home, I was I was dying. Like I would come home and I couldn't deal with just being home alone to myself, because I was just like, I was going through all of the different mistakes that I made and all the things that I said and everything I wish I could have took back and all these different things, and I was punishing myself, like literally, right? So that's not self-reflection. That's punishing yourself,
Yeah.
literally. That's not
Yeah.
you reflecting and trying to figure out how you can be better moving forward. That's you regretful, right? And so I had a lot of regrets, and that led to all of this grief and depression. So for me, it's very, very high functioning. Only a few people knew, but they didn't really characterize it as depression, especially not in 2017 when I was dealing with it. It was
Okay.
just Kofi's going through a breakup and he's sad right now.
Uh,
But
okay.
yeah, you being sad for 6 months straight is not just sadness, right? Like that's not sadness. I was definitely super depressed, and I had suicidal ideations at that time. So for me, it looked like um me being reserved to myself. But you would only notice if you know me, right?
Okay.
And if you were around me. So especially around that time, I was dorming. I was away from my parents, and I didn't really contact my parents like that anyway. So we didn't really have the best of contact when I was in college, not because of them, but just because I was just in college. I was like, man, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
you're
enjoy
doing
my
college.
freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to be texting my mom and dad every day and all this different stuff, right? So they wouldn't have known. There's no way that they could have really known. But for people that are close to individuals, I would say always look for a change in behavior. Even the slightest change, man. Even the slightest change can like be an indicator sometimes. So some things that you can notice, maybe a person's nails are growing out longer than they normally grow out. It's like, why aren't you cutting your nails? Like, you don't, all of a sudden you don't give a damn about how your nails look anymore. Like, that's not something that people really just
Yes.
stop caring about, right?
Yes.
Like that's, I know that's very I know that's very like specific detail, but that is something to pay attention to. Another thing for me, like if somebody is going out a lot and they go out with their friends and they always want to be with their friends, and then all of a sudden they're not, or if they're not in the group chat anymore, right? Like, because we're always checking in the group chat, and people normally sending, whenever you send a message, somebody's normally sending a message back, and you normally see people responding in a group chat, and they're just not responding anymore. Check in and see what's going on. Like, I have a friend right now that I'm thinking about, and I've noticed a change in behavior. Like, I've noticed a change in behavior just in this, and just in the group chat, just not responding to the group chat.
Okay.
So for me, that's an indicator, like what something's going on, right? And doesn't necessarily mean depression. They could be super busy, whatever the case may be, but that's an indicator to at least check in.
Check in. Yeah.
Right? Because then you can figure out what's going on from there, right? So always looking for changes in behaviors. Knowing your friends, knowing what their normal pattern is will help you to spot out changes. So I can give you the ones that I gave you just now, but you need to know your friend best, or know your son, daughter, niece, nephew, whatever the case best, and understand what a change in behavior looks like for them, what their average or normal behavior looks like, and then what a change in that behavior looks like, because that change will help you to kind of identify, even if they have high functioning depression where they're still out and all these different things.
Yeah.
It still will help you to identify, because with high functioning depression, you're going to be able to do the big things, but some of the smaller things you may not be able to do anymore, right? Like, you're just not going to want to be as active in a group chat, not going to be laughing at some of the things. Everything's not going to be funny to you. All these different things as a result of some of the things that you're dealing with, maybe when you're secluded and alone. Because at some point in time, when you have depression, you have to be depressed sometime,
Yeah.
right? And that depression is going to stop you from doing certain things. So it's about understanding what that depression is stopping that person from doing, and when. And then once you understand that, you'll be able to spot those different changes in their behavior and be able to understand you need to check in.
And I think that's important, because we always hear these stories of people that are public figures that seem okay. They have everything going for themselves, and they're able to be out in the limelight or be out in real life and look as if everything is normal, but
Right.
they're suffering. But
Yeah.
there are those little clues that we often miss, or we just say to ourselves that they must be okay because they're still functioning. So that's why I wanted to kind of highlight that, because we do need to pay attention.
Yeah.
You need to pay attention. So yeah, I want to jump over to the Black community and the lack of balanced modeling. So how do you think the lack of balanced modeling, and by that I mean being raised by a single parent or parents that don't establish emotional bonds with you, how does that impact a man's ability to express and articulate how he's feeling?
Man, it impacts so much more than just like expression. I'll say, at least so for me personally, I think a lot of us need to grow up, or we all need, I think we need to have that relationship with both of our parents, right?
Okay.
We need to have some physical love and affection from both sides. It can't just be like one side does one, the other side does the other, and like they come together and give you 100%. Like, no, I think you need that physical love and affection from both mom and dad, right? We're talking about heterosexual relationships. Because a lot of times what you end up seeing is, if a man doesn't have that validation, that affection from his father, he goes out and looking for it in other men, right? And that could be gangs, that could be sports, it could be a variety of different things. You hope to God it's not gangs and street life, right?
Yeah.
You hope to
Yeah.
God that it's sports and he finds a black male role model in his life that he can find that validation from. Because what he's really looking for is validation and affection, right? From a male figure, because he's not getting that. He can get all the nurturing and affection and all the love and stuff that he wants from his mom, but if not validated by dad, there will always be a gaping hole there. Why doesn't he
Yeah.
want me? And that
Yeah.
leads to that father wound, which is something that we talked about in our father wounds webinar. And in terms of the mother wounds manifest as well, right? So when you have a mom that's like super critical or always, talking about something that you may be insecure about, or that's maybe even abusive, right? Like that can lead to mother wounds. That can lead to you trying to search out for love and affection in woman, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
what happened. That's kind of what happened with me. Not saying my mom is super critical, but there are certain things that I didn't get growing up. And that's what led to me searching out for love, doing all this serial dating, being super anxious, being super insecure when I was in relationships. So they manifest in so many different ways outside of just us being able to express ourselves, because I've been comfortable speaking, but speaking and talking isn't the same as expressing and understanding and having a certain level of emotional intelligence. I think
Yes.
a lot of us don't grow up with emotional intelligence just because it's not taught in our family. So even if we have both parents, we still may lack emotional intelligence because we don't have those tools taught to us from a young age. So for me, it's about, listen, regardless of whether, mom and dad are there, or if it's just mom or if it's just dad, we need to be teaching about emotional intelligence, teaching kids how to manage and process their emotions healthily, not just the boys don't cry, man up, be strong kind of thing that we get in our culture today. And also understanding that they need that love and affection from both parties. They
Yeah.
need that love, affection, and positive discipline from both parties. They call it gentle parenting now. And I know a lot of Black people are against it, right? We're so used to just beating kids into submission
Yeah.
and thinking that that's going to lead to a healthy individual. But, that doesn't, I don't think, and there's a lot of research on this, so you don't have to take my word for it, right? I don't think beatings are conducive to raising healthy adults. I think beatings just teach people to operate out of fear
Hmm.
rather than reason and understanding why they actually do certain things. And I will always say that. So positive discipline instead of punishment, and positive reinforcement when somebody's doing an action that, or when somebody's doing an action, or a child is committing an action that you feel like is good, right? That you want them to repeat. There's studies that show that positive reinforcement is better to parent with than punishment. People can look all this stuff up. So I think we need to have that affection and that positive discipline. We need that from both sides. We can't just expect to have it from one side and expect that the other side will take care of the other thing, and then everything will just kind of line up and work out in the best way. Like, nah, we need it from both.
Yeah.
So us as men, we have to be a little bit more comprehensive, and just understand that it's okay for us to show emotions to our children.
And you don't have to, tap into Dr. Google. We can
Mhm.
just be real honest with ourselves and
Right.
look at how we were parented, and then look at how we parented our kids. And the goal was submission, and to create that sense of fear, just to have that sense of control, not because you wanted to control your kids like a pet, but you
Hmm.
thought you were doing what you needed to do to keep them in line and keep them safe. No,
Right.
it's certainly not the most effective way of parenting, but that feels the most safe when that's what's been modeled for you. But you just look in your own backyard and see how your kids turned out, or see what the relationship is like with your
Yeah.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You don't have to tap into Dr. Google for that. Let me
Right.
know how you're doing on time. I have a couple more questions. How you looking?
Yeah, we good. We got 15 more minutes.
Okay, all right.
Hmm.
So we talked about that imbalance
Hmm.
with your parental relationships and the impact it has. What
Yeah.
do you think the strong male social archetypes that Black men receive, how do you think that contributes to them possibly being uncomfortable or lacking the ability to process their feelings, and then having an inability to comfortably and confidently articulate their thoughts and emotions? In other words, to be vulnerable.
So you're gonna have to repeat that.
The social archetypes out there, you know, the stereotypes for men. You got to be strong, you got to be this and that. How do you think that impacts a man's ability to be vulnerable?
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I just did a father wounds webinar last weekend on Saturday. And we talked about how when you ask a man, how are you? First thing he's gonna say automatically is, I'm good, bro.
I'm good.
Most men,
Yeah.
I'm good, bro. Right? This is second nature to us, right? We don't even take 2 seconds to think about it at all. It's just, I'm good, bro. Right? And I started thinking to myself, why don't we think about the answer? Why don't we even take 2 seconds to think about if we're actually good or not? Because most of us aren't good. Like you and I just talked about all this stuff that I was dealing with, depression, cheated on, anxiety, all of these different things, right? So when somebody asks me, yo, how are you doing? I just straight go into, I'm good, bro. Am I really good? Am I sure? Like, are you sure you're good? You dealt with a lot of stuff, right? So it's important for us to take that time to identify what we're actually feeling. But we don't do that because of the archetypes that we get growing up and all these different stereotypes and things that we get drilled into us, right? The man up, the be strong, the boys don't cry, right? So I had all of this on the slide now just talking about it. And I was saying as a child, right? And as a teenager, young adult, even as an adult, as you get told all of these things, they get ingrained in your subconscious, right? They get ingrained in who you are, the fabric of your being, to the point where anytime you get asked how you're doing, the response is going to be, I'm good, bro, because society tells you that you as a man can't be anything but good.
That's right.
There's
Especially
no
black
other
man.
right. There's no other option for you to be but good. And even if you aren't good and you feel comfortable articulating that, are people going to care? Right. And so this is what we were talking about, and how a lot of that comes from childhood and just our thought process, and not being able to have a space where we were able to express how we felt, and where we were able to actually go through our emotions. A lot of times I see even today, people are turned off by black boys crying. Like it's like the worst thing in the world, right? Like it's like, whoa, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you crying? Why are you so sensitive? As if he's not supposed to have feelings, right? But this is the thought process that we have in our society today. We think of men, every man, as like some warrior or soldier, and that life in itself is our battleground. And now we're supposed to go out and fight until we have to come back home. And even when we come back home, we can't take off the armor because the next day we're gonna have to do it again. And this is how we raise boys, especially black boys, right? And it's hard to tell someone, yo, you don't have to raise a boy that way when we live in a society where racism exists, right? And we have systemic racism. We have all these different threats that, come to us in the black community, especially as black men. But what really happens when you don't allow your child to be able to express what they're dealing with is you create these hardened men that don't know how to operate outside of a battlefield, and are even uncomfortable in the battlefield, and don't have the tools to be able to deal with the trauma that they experience in the battlefield. And in this analogy, the battlefield is life, right? That's the life, that's what we experience, right? Life is a battle. We go through all these different things, and we have to be able to learn how to deal with them. And there's some times where you have to maybe put your emotions aside and really handle business. You can't be super emotional in those moments, and you may have to lean more on traditional logic, right? But there are also other times, more often than we like to admit, that you really do have to process what you're dealing with so that you can be able to move forward healthily.
Yeah.
And when you have a society that tells men that feelings aren't important and feelings are going to get you killed, and you can't make the decisions based off of your feelings and all these different things, it's not conducive to us, growing into comprehensive man, which is what Jason Wilson calls it, right?
Yeah.
Actually a man that knows how to nurture, take care, and a man that also knows how to be, strong, masculine when he needs to be, right? He talks about it as being the lion, knowing how to turn from lion into lamb, right? Knowing how to, go back and, go between the two. But a lot of us as men only know how to be the lion, right? And we get tired of being a lion sometimes. And it's exhausting. And now we're being a lion at home with our kids and with our wives and all these different things, our family members, right? We don't know how to just turn it off because we've never been taught that we're allowed to turn it off. And so I see it all the time on the page. Anytime I talk about emotions, I got some man saying, nah, you got to challenge your emotions and turn it on. I'm just like, bro, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slow down, brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Yeah.
everything ain't a nail. You know, like we don't need to hammer everything.
Everything.
You
Yeah.
know, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like everything doesn't need to be hammered, right?
And
Just take a second and realize that that may be a screw. That you may need a screw, you may need a different tool for
yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
may not need to hammer that in, bro. And I think a lot of us are just so used to hammering and drilling that we can't just step back and put the tool down because we don't know what it is, or what it's like to pick up something else.
Yeah.
And
And
we struggle with that.
hurts my heart to hear you say that. And it hurt my heart the first time I heard it, having a conversation with my young man, that they have they can only have one mode of operating, and that's I'm good, bro. And that's to everybody, because you can't be too happy because people look at you funny. You can't be too angry because people look at you funny. You can't be anything but I'm good, bro.
Doesn't that sound exhausting? Doesn't that sound so exhausting?
And when they told me that, I thought to myself, and it was so interesting because I have 2 Black sons, and I said, I wonder if this is just like a Black phenomenon, right? At that time, I had one man on my staff, and he was a white male, and I went to ask him. He was like, yeah, yeah, we have to be good for everybody. And more especially for Black men, not only do you have to be good for everybody, but that PTSD thing too.
Yeah.
You can't show too much. It could potentially endanger your life. And that just hurts my heart. My next question was going to be, what are the long-term consequences? But you just kind of expounded on that.
Right.
What that looks like and ultimately feels like for a man. You're just exhausted. You can't. Yeah, I'm hurt and exhausted.
You're exhausted.
Thinking about that.
You're exhausted. You're depressed. You're probably operating in a constant state of depression.
Yeah.
You don't even know, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's like I said, it may not be debilitating depression, but there is a certain level of depression that comes with not being able to process your emotions. Like you are either angry or somewhat happy. That is no way to live.
That's not.
And once people realize that that's how they're living, what comes naturally after that is depression, because you feel like you're trapped.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go and nobody cares, and that you're alone. And that's one of the biggest lies that depression tells you. Yeah. Man, you alone, man. You're the only one going through this.
That's right.
That's crazy.
Right.
Ain't nobody care about what you're feeling. Ain't nobody care about what you're experiencing, and you made all these mistakes and you're never going to be able to live them down. And that's kind of what I was experiencing in 2017. All these mistakes, nobody cares about you. You're the only one that's experiencing this. And so that was how my depression kind of manifested into suicidal ideations and all these things, man. And so whenever I talk about this, I always try to tell people like, yo, first of all, take a step back. Understand that it's okay to experience what you're experiencing, to feel what you're feeling. That is a-okay. But it's not okay to stay in it, right? It's not okay to just allow it to continue to manifest and get worse and worse. Reach out, talk to somebody that you trust, that you feel comfortable sharing with. And even if you don't feel comfortable sharing with them, maybe it's important for you to take this leap right now, because a lot of men don't feel comfortable sharing with people.
That's right.
And they don't feel like that space has been created. And we always talk about, man, how do we create a safe space for men? Like, men need a safe space. How do we create the space? Like, people ask me all the time, how are you so comfortable talking about your feelings and your emotions? It's like, how are you just so, like, it's some like mystery, right? But for me,
it really is an ancient Chinese secret. It's like a puzzle, like how are the pyramids built? Because it's so far away from men's reach. So answer that question, because it was my next question.
Yeah. I'm gonna explain to you. I'm just comfortable with who I am. I don't like, and it's such a simple answer, and we try to make it so much more complex than it actually is. I'm comfortable with who I am. So when I tell you I got cheated on, I don't care how you respond to that. You could say, damn, that's crazy. You could say, damn, you should have been better. You should have known you got cheated on. You can say whatever the hell you want to say, right? Like, it can be as hurtful or as positive. It's gonna have no effect on me. Why? Because I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm comfortable. I've made my peace with it. right? So people all the time say, oh yeah, you know, the people have all these things to say, right? Like I post on social media to 60,000 people every day. Someone's always gonna have something to say. Sometimes it gets me, don't get me wrong, right? Because sometimes people just know certain things. It's like, damn, bro. I'm like, damn, you click that one little button, right? You got that one thread that I just hadn't really ironed out yet, right? But for the most part, it really doesn't get to me because I don't care what people have to say because I'm comfortable with who I am. And that's where the leading with vulnerability is super powerful, because when you lead with vulnerability, right, and you're truly comfortable with who you are, you allow other people to do that and see that it's okay to be comfortable with that. It's okay to be comfortable with being cheated on. It's okay to be comfortable with having suicidal ideations at some point in time and being depressed. It's okay to be comfortable with anxiety, right? It's okay to be comfortable with knowing that you experience those things, right? Not saying it's okay to be comfortable just sitting in it, right? You should want to do something to get out of that, and you should want to do something to heal. But it's okay to say that you've experienced that. There's nothing wrong with you as a person for going through life and experiencing things that humans experience. And I think for me, I've made that connection, and that has changed my entire life. I don't think I'm any different than anybody. And that's a superpower, because
That is,
I know I experience the same things that other people do. I'm just open about it.
yeah,
I know I'm not crazy, right? Because when I talk to my therapist, she validates me.
yeah,
Right. And that's a big part of it, is being validated. A lot of men have never been validated. So they think they're crazy for what they experience and what they feel. So why would I feel comfortable sharing what I experienced when I think I'm crazy and it's always been invalidated?
yeah, yeah,
Nobody's experiencing the same thing as me, because this has always been invalidated by anybody that I've ever shared it with. So when you go through life with that as your thought process, makes it very, very hard to openly share about what you're experiencing, what you're dealing with. But for me, I know that that's a lie, right? I know men deal with depression all the time. I know men deal with anxiety. I know men deal with getting cheated on, because I've had these conversations. And the reason why I know all this is because I lead with vulnerability. And whenever I lead with vulnerability, no matter what the space is, I always have someone that says, yeah, bro, experience the same thing, bro. Damn, bro, thank you so much for sharing that, because I've been going through the same exact thing. And so what that tells me is that we all going through the same stuff. So now as a
yeah.
result, I can lead with vulnerability and more things. I can say even more now, because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really just the average black man. I was on a podcast the other day, Daily Wrap Up Crew, and we were talking about, I was saying like, I'm the average black man. Um, and what I mean by that is like, I'm really no different. I'm no different from your sons, right? We may have different experiences. I may have a different job. I may live in a different city, may have a different accent, regardless of what the situation is, right? But I'm no different than them, right? Like if I was to sit down and have a conversation with them right now, we would click on like 10 things
Yeah,
instantly,
yeah,
right? And this is not something that takes me long to do. Once I start sharing my story, yeah, bro, been there. Cool. All right, now we can talk about it, right? And this is how it goes. And I just know that that's a thing. So it's not hard for me to share what I've experienced, because I know I'm not the only one dealing with it. And anybody that clowns me or has an insult or anything negative to say doesn't matter, and it's insignificant in my opinion, because I'm comfortable with who I am and what I've experienced, and I've done the work to get to a point where it doesn't affect me anymore. Maybe in the past, yeah, somebody came up to me like, yeah, bro, yeah, you can't believe you got cheated on. Couldn't be me. That's trash. You whack. I've never got you. Maybe in the past, yeah, but now, nah, it don't matter to me, bro.
and I'm so glad you were able to define for you what okay. I'm okay, because a lot of us say we're okay, especially men,
Hmm.
and they mean I'm good. Nobody's ever going to do that. No, that's not
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm glad you
yeah.
defined that so they can understand that okay means being truly at peace with who you are, truly
Right,
accepting your experience, and not allowing your ego to take you there to be bothered. So
right.
one last question.
Hmm.
I want to ask you, how does Express Yourself Black Man provide support and create community for Black men? Like what types of services and support groups and stuff do you offer? I think that's very important for you to get out there. What do you
Hmm.
do?
Variety of things, man. So we just launched a private healing community. We call it a Safe Haven. It's called a
Mhm.
Black Man Safe Haven. Safe Haven for short. And so what we do inside of Safe Haven is we take all of the content that we have on social media, we expand on it, we create articles, and everything is searchable. So it's literally the social media archived, but it's also searchable and expanded. So all of that healing content is inside of Safe Haven, on top of the webinars that we do that are free for the community. That's also inside of Safe Haven. And we have support groups that we're going to be starting. So we're going to have support groups inside of Safe Haven as well. So if someone's dealing with depression, anxiety, all these different things, they can have a group of like-minded men that are going through and experiencing the same things as them. We have community forums as well. So we have one next week. We have them bi-weekly where we just get together and we lead with vulnerability and we talk about things that we've experienced as well. And that's a place where we can really get healing from each other. But the healing that also comes in the therapeutic process from expressing what you've actually dealt with and actually getting it out instead of internalizing that. So one of the big things that we try to teach inside of Safe Haven is leading with vulnerability and the power that comes from that and just your expression. And so the entire month of May, we dedicated to emotional intelligence just to raise the level.
Okay.
Yeah, just to raise the level of emotional intelligence in our men. So we did a bunch of polls, we did affirmations, we did a community forum on emotional intelligence, on grief, all of these different things just to provide those tools. We also have collaborations where we offer low-cost therapy right now. That's gonna get closed out after the end of this week because of just capacity. So we have about 20 people in there right now. We've had maybe like 12 to 15 men that have booked recurring sessions with a therapist for low-cost therapy under $50. And now we're gonna add 20 more slots. So we're doing another webinar this week to teach people how to find a Black therapist. So that's going to be free and posted inside of Safe Haven. And as part of that webinar, we're going to offer the people in that webinar that aren't Safe Haven members access to Safe Haven and also the low cost therapy. So we're going to do that for 20 people. But after that, that low cost therapy is going to transition into something else. It'll be therapy, but it won't be low cost anymore just because we'll be at capacity with the low cost therapy. Outside of that, we also have a free medical concierge service inside of Safe Haven. So we did another partnership with an organization. So they're going to be booking, they're going to be finding Black doctors and booking doctor's appointments for members at their request.
Okay.
And that's free as well. So that's provided by the healthcare plug. The low cost therapy is provided by Whole Brother Mission. And we're doing another partnership as well on meditation. We're going to get meditation, yoga, mindfulness. We're going to have a group inside of Safe Haven. And that's going to be part of another org that offers those services. So Safe Haven is really, when I think about it, it's literally
A safe haven?
literally, yes, literally, it's literally that. But it's everything that a Black man could and should want in terms of their healing journey. It's everything that I wish I had in 2017. I wish somebody gave me access to a community where I could have all of these things at my fingertips, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do, is just make sure that one, the healing is everywhere, but two, the healing is archived, it's easily able to be found. And then also people have a community of people that they know for a fact that they can talk to about things that they're dealing with. So we're providing in my eyes, a holistic solution versus just coming on social media and just pumping out content without really having these kind of conversations to understand, hey, is this what you need? I know you liked it. How is it helping you, right? Like, is it really helping you? What are you looking for? Having those conversations internal to the community, but also providing services that impact external, which is like the low cost therapy, which will transition into like therapy, and then also the medical concierge service, and then mindfulness, yoga, meditation, all these different things. And we're only a month and some change in. I haven't even posted the logo on the page yet, just because of all the work that we've been doing. And so we just started, like we've literally just started. We have less than 50 members right now, but that's going to grow tremendously as we continue to get the word out of what we're doing.
So Safe Haven, so one would have to go to the expressyourselfblackman.com website, and then they can just sign up for Safe Haven. So all the things that you talked about, particularly like the webinars and the low cost therapy, do they have to join, or
they have to join Safe Haven? So the webinars are free. The webinars are for everybody. Okay. And that's a way of me trying to get back to the community outside of Instagram, because the Instagram posts are great, but I like to connect with people and have conversations face to face, even though the webinars aren't really face to face, but just outside of Instagram. and really be able to give like in-depth presentations and explain things, because posts can kind of get misconstrued and people can have all these different interpretations of stuff. But a webinar, you can really explain and answer questions and all that kind of stuff. And it's for people that are really interested in like getting that extra push and that extra help. So the webinars are free. We'll continue to do them. They won't be reposted or shared on the page or anything publicly. You'll get them when you get them. You just have to be in there to experience it, but they will be inside of Safe Haven, which is why I mentioned it. But all the other features, the low-cost therapy, the medical concierge service, the searchable content, community forums, daily polls, affirmations, all that kind of stuff, even live podcast episodes. So this is only getting broadcasted to the Safe Haven community. All of that stuff is part of the Safe Haven membership, and we're just going to continue to add more things as we go on. We also have a personal finance group that's run by credit repairs, a board certified credit specialist. He's also a Black man. And so he helps people, specifically Black people, repair their credit. So he has a bunch of clients. He's helped a lot of people go from like 500 credit scores to 700, and he does it religiously. So yeah, he's helping people that he has as his personal clientele. And he's also creating content inside of Safe Haven to help people with their own credit and stuff. So the plan is to not just have it as mental health or physical health or
holistic.
It's holistic, right? It's everything that we would need in order for us to live a better life and become the best versions of ourselves. So that's exactly what Safe Haven is. And I'm going to continue to add partnerships and all these different things because I want people to literally feel like they're stealing from me. So that's the plan, right? Just to continue to add as much value and partnerships as I possibly can at the same rate. So yeah, the healing is everywhere, but the healing is specifically in Safe Haven because I created it specifically for the Black man.
Yeah. If I didn't say it, I want to make sure I say it. Not only am I blown away by your work, but I am so very proud of you as a Black man, coming from a Black woman, just the work that you're doing and the passion and the compassion that you have for the mental health space, and to be doing it in the manner that you're doing it is just simply amazing, young man. Amazing.
I appreciate it.
Amazing. So I want you to make sure I have all of your contact information, because I want to post it in the description of the interview so people know where to go to find you on Instagram, YouTube, wherever you are,
right? So
that they can have full access to you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a Black man, obviously, but you feed my soul every day as I read the content. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely
Thank you.
Brilliant.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so I can give you the contact information right now. I was gonna say we're Express Yourself Black Man on all social media platforms. So that's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. As far as the website, that's www.expressyourselfblackman.com. If you're interested in Safe Haven, all you need to do is add a /safe-haven, or you can go to expressyourselfblackman.com and then go into the navigation menu and click Safe Haven. You'll get to Safe Haven there. Outside of that, we have the podcast that's Express Yourself Black Man. It's on all major podcast platforms, so you can listen to the podcast. We have over 50 episodes, all with different Black people, mostly with different Black people talking about their own experiences and things that they've dealt with. So we've talked about anxiety before, we've talked about depression, we've talked about post-traumatic slave syndrome, we've talked about what else have we talked? We talked about transactional relationships, we talked about queer Black men, relationships and dating. We've had a variety of episodes. So the podcast is a very, very, very powerful tool. There's a lot of different valuable information in the podcast as well. Outside of the podcast, we have also an ebook. The ebook is also free to Safe Haven members. The ebook has 4 chapters. It's called From Hurting and Healing: A Black Man's Guide to Feeling, and it has 4 chapters. So one chapter is on breakups, the other chapter is on depression, suicidal ideations. The 3rd chapter is on anxiety, and the 4th chapter is on attachment styles. And so what I did was I broke up every chapter into 2 sections. One section was my story, my experiences, me leading with vulnerability, talking about what I experienced to connect with the reader. And then the 2nd chapter is like how to heal. And I wrote down a guide and things that I did to specifically heal with dealing with the chapters content. And that's also free inside of Safe Haven. I create a lot of content outside of that ebook, or using that ebook as a source. It's basically all of the information that I could gather that I use to help me get out of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations, breakups, and also with healing my attachment style, which is a super powerful tool and thing for us to know, which is what I specifically kind of talked about in the Healing Father Wounds webinar. And then, yeah, the webinars as well. So those are free. You can get access to them just by following the Instagram page. And we'll post webinars every so often. So what I'm going to try and do is at least one a month. And we're going to have just a variety of topics. I'll just ask the community what they're interested in. And we'll have one free one a month. So far, the webinars have been averaging around like 250 to 300 signups.
Wow.
And that's without me like really advertising it, doing like social media ads and campaigns. So I can just only imagine once we actually do that, how much people are going to actually want to, take advantage of that. So so it's definitely a blessing to be in the position that I'm in, and to be able to be doing what I'm doing. I thank God for it every day. And I'm grateful for people like you that want to continue to spread the message and do interviews like this. It's definitely been very, very, very helpful. So I appreciate you reaching out and wanting to do an interview and sitting down with me with your questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking your time out this evening to share who you are and why you are and what you do. You are purposed, you're powerful, you're just simply amazing. And I thank God for you because I know the struggle that my sons go through. So to have someone like you, for them to hear words that I might say, but they resonate different from you. So, so I love that's something that they have an opportunity to kind of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. We should get them in Safe Haven if you're interested.
Well, I was going to say, for everybody that's listening, if you guys don't believe how quickly things fill up, I went out to sign them up, but it was already full.
Oh, what you try to sign them up for?
As soon as you announced that it was happening, and I went up and signed everybody up for the email, and then when it came back out for the discounted therapy and all the things that was going on, I think I might have missed it by a second. So since you're opening it back up, as soon as we are off, I'm going.
Yeah, you got to go sign them up for the. So here's what we can do. You can sign them up for Safe Haven right now, but they would have to do it on their end. Let me know once they do, and then I can invite them to the low-cost therapy group.
Okay.
That way they get in before the whole rush of people that are gonna come on Saturday. So if you want to do that before Saturday, just let me know, send me a DM, we can coordinate it.
I'm doing that as soon as we hang up. So
that way we can get them to low-cost therapy. They can get in before everybody else, because on Saturday, at this rate, I don't know. Everybody's not going. It's only 20 slots. We can. That's all we can afford to do at this point, right? Because of capacity and the partner. So I want to make sure I'm having a conversation with you. I know you have sons. I want to make sure that they get in. So you hit me up, send me a DM, whatever the case may be. We coordinate it, and I will personally invite them into, after they join Safe Haven. Of course, I will invite them into the low-cost therapy group, and they'll be able to get that information.
Eternally grateful. Eternally grateful.
Absolutely.
Immediately.
Absolutely.
They say on the little memes, immediately. I've heard what I needed to hear. Immediately, I'm signing up. So with that being said, I've kept you all night. Thank you, Kizzle, for sharing your important truths. And I'm hoping that I can have you back at another time. But as always, I want to send a special shout out and a thank you to the truth seekers and your community for joining us tonight, because you could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here. So remember to lead with love and live in your truth.
Absolutely.
All right, then.
Thank you, LaDawn.
Thank you, Kizzle.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.